I'm pretty sure I was on day 2 of having COVID when I recorded this video. I was popping these elderflower emergency fizzy drink pills like crazy, I remember that much. Not sure if it really helped, but hey, it was a fizzy drink I could drink while I was sick and it tastes like old people candy. So there's that. Manchurian cuisine is a classic fusion style that combines Cantonese cuisine for Indian tastes. Fascinatingly, unlike other cuisines, this one can actually be traced to a specific individual. Said to have been invented by Nelson Wang in 1973. He was a cook at the Cricket Club of India in Mumbai. A customer had asked him to create something different from what was available on the menu, and so he came up with this kind of Indian Cantonese style fusion. If you want an idea of what something like this would taste like, imagine the sweet and savoriness of Cantonese food mixed in with the higher levels of spice as preferred by a lot of people in South Asia, and also incorporating a lot of South Asian ingredients such as mutton and paneer and gobi, also known as cauliflower. Here I'm preparing the capsicum or green bell pepper for the Manchurian sauce. You can see me removing the inner membrane from the green bell pepper. That makes it less bitter, but I wouldn't really recommend doing it because it takes a lot of work and practice. It's just something that I used to do at my friend's Chinese restaurant. After prepping my peppers, I'm going to cut them up into bite-sized chunks and do the same thing with some onions. Do it in a pretty rough dice. The sauce itself is actually a stir-fried based sauce, so most of the time spent making it is in the prep, dicing the onions, chopping up the bell peppers, the garlic, and the ginger, as well as the chilies, but then once it comes time to actually assemble it in a wok, it only takes a couple of minutes. Because we're gonna cut up the garlic anyway, instead of using the two-bowl method to peel the garlic, I just smash its skin on with the broad end of my cleaver, and then the skin peels pretty much right off. If you don't need to have whole cloves, this is probably the easiest way to get the skins off of your garlic. When something is cooked Manchurian style, that only refers to it being cooked in the sauce. So if you had, for example, gobi Manchurian, it would mean cauliflower in Manchurian sauce. So you could have chicken Manchurian, shrimp Manchurian, fish, or paneer, which is an Indian fresh cheese, all cooked in Manchurian sauce, and all of them are delicious. As with any basic stir fry, oftentimes we start with minced garlic and ginger. You want your ginger to be minced about the same size as your garlic so that they cook at around the same rate. Pound your chilies with a mortar and pestle till it becomes loose flakes, that way it's easily distributed through the sauce. And just like how we prepared all the solid ingredients by cutting them beforehand, we do the same with our liquid ingredients by pre-measuring them into small bowls so we can throw them into the wok right as we need them without a second to waste. Now, on top of seasoning your wok regularly to have a non-stick coating, you must also pre-season your wok before stir-frying. This means heating your wok dry at first until it starts to smoke just a little before putting a little bit of oil and swirling it around or using the back of a wok spatula to distribute the oil along the sides of the wok. Allow this oil to smoke a little before discarding it into a pail to be reused again for this purpose or just discarded completely. Now you have a wok that is completely non-stick and ready for whatever stir fry you're going to put it through. Starting with the ginger and garlic, we're just going to swirl it around the pan until it starts to release its aroma. Be really quick and go by smell and not by sight, because once it starts to toast, it will burn by the time you finish everything that comes after it. Now you're going to see me add both the crushed peppers and whole chilies to this stir fry. The reason why I add whole chilies is not to make it spicier, but because of the aesthetic that the whole chilies provide. This is pretty common in Hunanese and Sichuanese cuisine. We use whole chilies cooked inside the dish, and even though it doesn't make it all that much spicier, it looks a lot spicier. So it's kind of used as a garnish that's cooked into the stir fry or the braise or the roast, or whatever you want. Now, Manchurian sauce is unique. It calls for the use of just dark soy sauce in the stir fry, which normally you don't see very often. Pouring it down the sides of the wok as opposed to directly in the center of the wok will do something different to the sauce. Dark soy sauce needs heat to activate fully, and pouring it down the sides, make sure that it touches all the hottest parts of the wok so that it caramelizes as it goes down. Deglazing it with a little bit of rice wine vinegar and then adding ketchup to the sauce. Ketchup, as we know, is nothing more than tomato puree, vinegar, and sugar. And while ketchup on its own may or may not taste really good based on your preference, it makes a fantastic ingredient to cook with. The recipe does call for another hit of sugar to balance it out with additional sweetness, which is unnecessarily if you are making it, because you're sweet enough. But I am not, so I am adding just a hit of erythritol instead of sugar because it's a calorie-free substitute that I think works perfectly fine in savory dishes. Once everything is mixed and starts to simmer, add in some cornstarch slurry celery to thicken into a nice little gravy texture, and then set the whole thing aside. Feel free to make this sauce well in advance. Give it some time to cool at room temperature and then store it in the fridge. Bring it up to heat in a saucepan right before you're ready to serve it. Now what I'm serving it with is a little unorthodox even for a fusion dish. Makkai, or corn, is served Manchurian style, but normally they use baby corn, and in this case I decided to use a Korean corn fritter. It's easy enough to make: 2 cans of corn, 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of tapioca starch. It would be better if you had potato starch, but I did not. 2 cups of water, and then mixing it so that it has like a pancake consistency with a bunch of corn in it. Season with salt and white pepper to taste. This was my first time making both of these things, so I was keeping the fritters pretty simple, but doing it again I would totally have added scallions, maybe some melty cheese like mozzarella or pepper jack cheese to the fritter. That would totally have added to the entire dish all around. I also recommend keeping them small, using no more than a cup of batter, maybe 3/4 of a cup ideally. Not only does it mean that there is more to share, but they are a lot easier to manage when they're on the smaller side. Normally when you cook with Manchurian sauce, you normally give it a toss in the sauce at the very end. But because of the way the fritters are shaped, it kind of makes it impossible to do that, so I just topped it all off with the sauce on a wooden cutting board, along with some scallions for garnish. Really enjoyed the sweetness of the corn inside its fried pancake-like fritter, topped off with the sweet and savory and spicy Manchurian sauce. And then you got that freshness of the scallions at the end. It was giving sweet and savory, spicy appetizer, really satisfying bar snack. And then this was where I got the idea to add paneer to it, and eating it all together made me realize that I really should have added a cheesy element to the fritter so that it was all melty and gooey on the inside. Apart from that, I think adding a fresh cold contrast would also do well to counteract the richness of the Manchurian sauce. Something a little bit stronger than the paneer, so perhaps a crumbled feta or maybe a queso fresco. Maybe even some kind of yogurt drizzle, but oh man, queso fresco sounds really f***ing good. I'm gonna have to do this again and try it with that.